Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Unzipping Taboos, candid conversations about sex with Dr. Sue and Charlie. We're here, as many of you may know, to dive into the topics of sex and sexuality that you might be curious about, but don't always feel comfortable talking about. No judgment, just open, honest conversation. So zip down and let's get candid. And today, everyone, starting with this episode, episode 50. You can now
Woo!
watch us too. That's right. We are officially on video. So if you've ever wondered what it looks like when Dr. Sue raises an eyebrow or I cringe laugh mid myth busting, now's your chance. You'll find us wherever you stream your podcasts for audio, and now you can watch us on Spotify or YouTube. So today, as I just mentioned, this is our 50th episode. 50 episodes in, we're just going to do
50.
a little debrief on what we've
Yeah.
learned over this last year together, and some of the favorite episode moments, perhaps. And we're just going to see where this goes. But
Nothing like
before
a
we do all
plan.
that, yeah, but before we do all of that, I am here with our rock star, our resident badass, Dr. Sue. Hey, Dr. Sue.
Hey, Charlie.
50 episodes.
I know. I feel tired. We've done 50. Not in one day, though. So I feel like I can't say I'm tired from that. But apparently still
uh,
sick. So sorry for about the sound, everybody.
well, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Not really. I hate this part. I feel like
It's
this
never
is
going to go away.
never gonna go away. And I feel like if we're reflecting on 50, I feel like this is the part I get yelled at the most about. Actually, I feel like this is the only part I get yelled at.
The part you've received the most feedback
Yeah,
on.
no, it's yelling.
No, you've been yelled at.
So the reason for those of you who are joining us for the first time or haven't tuned in a while, the reason I get yelled at is because I tend to go really fast through this. Now, in my defense, sometimes I'm excited to get to a guest speaker. I'm like, yeah, like
True.
let's just get through the motion. Um, but several of my friends have been like, stop doing what women do and minimizing your credentials. But it just feels awkward. So,
Valid.
mm, okay.
You still
So
haven't told us about your credentials. All that to say.
all that to say. So I have a PhD in human sexuality education, and you can actually get a PhD in that. And if you have any questions, because that's always my students like, how'd you wind up there? Um, so have a PhD in human sexuality. I do primarily work in academia. So when you hear me talk about my students, it's primarily academia, though I do some stuff in the community where I may be working with high school students. So I kind of well, now I feel like I wear 15 hats, but so like academia by day, and Hey Dr. Sue by night just sounds bad. Um, so you can find me online as Hey Dr. Sue. I'm all over Instagram, YouTube, all the places, and people will submit anonymous sex questions to me through my website, and we'll include the link in that in the description. And so once a week I answer those questions because I feel like everyone should have access to this information.
Hmm.
And in addition to all that, I do this and I write textbooks. And in addition, I feel like this part could
And
be
then,
forever. And then, but I also do a lot of work across the lifespan and across audience types. So I've worked with folks, I think as young as 13, because I was doing something on puberty. And I think my oldest person I've ever done a presentation with has been in their late 80s. I do presentations in the community. I also work with healthcare professionals, specifically social workers and psychiatrists. Um, I work with folks who work with senior, like I'm just basically anyone that says, come talk to us about sex. I'm like, okay. So was that long enough? Not that time matters. Good enough. Good. Okay, cool. So I'm moving on. For those of you who don't know our Charlie, Charlie is our curious co-host who is always ready to have these meaningful conversations about these taboo topics that we so rarely talk about. Um, Now it's your turn. You're more
my
comfortable with this than
turn.
I am.
Well, I don't have accomplishments that I'm trying to hide from in this space. I get to be the everyday person in the room with you for these conversations, on top of being someone who has generally been interested in the psychology of the human condition and how we human amongst other humans. And I enjoy challenging taboos and societal expectations, especially a woman in American society. There are certain messages you grow up with surrounding sex and pleasure, and those have always seemed kind of weird to me because,
Mhm.
first and foremost, I'm a human, so I would imagine I enjoy and desire things in a similar way to many human instincts. So yeah, all that to say, I enjoy challenging taboos and expectations and pushing the lines of those conversations and the things that we have been conditioned to believe about certain things. And so the opportunity to join Dr. Sue in this space was quite the honor and very intriguing.
And
So
you
here
heard
we
me. I
are.
mean, you heard my brain and keep me on task. Like, that is a special skill that I think you should put in your resume.
Dr. Sue Herder. Depends on how you hear that.
That's actually what I was just thinking, especially with being sick. I'm like, I'm not sure people are hearing me well.
Herder, not Hurter. But maybe sometimes with your consent.
Always with consent.
Always with consent.
So
All
50.
right.
So
50, we made it.
I know. Yay. So the
Woo!
reason I wanted to do this like on 50, I'm like, we should celebrate this. And so I was just cheat sheeting and looking at the Googles. Um, Most podcasts, 90% of podcasts fail to make it past 3 episodes.
Wow.
And then of the ones that do, another 90% quit before 20. So
Oh my gosh.
we should have celebrated at 21. What were we thinking?
I mean, look at us. And
Yeah.
here we are. It's like or here I was. It's
Hmm.
50, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I had to talk Charlie into this. Part of
a
it
little
though is
bit.
a little bit, but
Yeah.
you were on. But once I talked you into it, you were on board. I wish I knew that number. I would have started with that when I was trying to talk to you about it. Um,
That's what you should have done. A
I should have done my
PowerPoint
homework.
justifying a celebratory episode.
If I do that, I'll put that in the description somewhere. But the reason I also want to celebrate 50 is a nice round number,
Mhm.
and I like nice round numbers, but also because celebrating accomplishments is kind of it's a mini way to resist all the things that are
Yeah.
happening. Um, so obviously I won that argument, and we're here.
You were very persuasive.
I should have just looked up the number. See, numbers do matter because most of the time I'm
Mhm.
just making numbers up, but I freely admit that. But this time it was from the Google, so obviously it must be true.
So it's a legit number because you
It's
can't lie on the internet.
no, because
Yeah.
as President Lincoln said, everything on the internet is true.
Oh, I wonder if any history professors have had students cite that.
I actually have a PowerPoint slide that has that. It has a picture of Abraham Lincoln and that quote. And my students are like, oh, okay.
Illustrating the power of authority in those situations.
Yeah. But then my favorite follow-up is like, were you alive when he was president? And I'll be like, shut up. I'm not that old. Anyway, back to our 50.
Yes. Um, you want to talk about how we got here or the unzipping taboos origin story?
Didn't we do that in the eighth take of our
I
first?
think we did.
So I our first episode took no lie, it must have been about 5 different takes. Just the
Yes.
episode. I'm not even talking about the intro we tried
Hmm.
to do. Um,
Hmm.
because we were trying to find our footing, and I think that was challenging for anyone who's trying to do something new, who's doing it with very little guidance. Um, but the reason the show came about, so is that we really want to talk about that, and not those spectacular 5 episodes that our close friends and
I mean, I
family had
think
to
there's
listen
space to
to.
talk about both.
We do have
Nope.
some, yeah, we do have some outtake clips from you trying to do the intro. But okay, let's be serious. So
Yes.
so let me start with actually Hey Dr. Sue, because I don't think the podcast happens without that. And so I was teaching at a very large university in the South, like upwards of 70,000 students. And my sex class, which was bigger than I liked, like I was used to a class size of like 25 to 30, and this was in the hundreds. And even with that, I was like, there's literally 68,000 students who are not going to get this information.
Yeah.
Um, and like that just felt wrong for me. And it wasn't that I was gatekeeping, like I wasn't, keeping people out of
You
my, well,
cannot come to my
yeah,
class.
well, I did. I mean, I stuck to
Well,
my
there's
seat. Yeah,
yeah.
I stuck to my seat limit very hard. But,
Yeah.
it was like you had to have the privilege of being in a school that had that class and and the privilege of being in college, the privilege of being at a school that had a sex class, the privilege of having a hole in your program that would allow you to take that elective. Like, but people needed information. And I've known this because my students over the years at all the institutions I've worked with, they're always like, okay, I was talking to my friend, roommate, cousin, sibling, whatever, and they wanted me to ask you this. So, like, I know people are talking and there's more going on than just the people sitting in front of me.
Hmm.
When we get offline, I have to tell you a very funny story actually about an Uber with that. Um, but I started to feel like I was somehow gatekeeping the information and that didn't feel right to me. Um, and my big thing about doing education, like I'm a bit of a geek. I'm not a bit. I'm pretty much a dork. Um,
It's
and so like the stuff that fascinates me doesn't fascinate the average human. And so it was really important to me that I was not only gatekeeping information, not gatekeeping information, there's a lot of negatives there, but also that I was answering the questions that people wanted answers to. Like
hmm.
I could wax philosophical on the history of contraception and blah blah blah. Most people just want to be like, what should I use? So I started doing Hey
Do
Dr.
I
Sue.
have it or not?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Um, so I started doing Hey Dr. Sue as a way of like essentially throwing open my doors, my virtual doors, and saying, what do you want to know about? And, at first it was slow because people didn't know I existed. But I had this stack of index cards because I would have a day where students could just write down any question they wanted. It was usually the beginning of the semester, so I could, and it was done anonymously, so I could know what to hit. Or if I
Hmm.
would guest speak in people's classes, I would have students submit questions. Because again, I want to answer your question, not not talk about the things that fascinate me. And so I had this stack of index cards, which I still have over there. Um, and so I started with those, and then all of a sudden it was like somehow someone found me, and I was getting all these questions. I'm still backlogged. See, that felt like an attitude, and there really was an attitude there. Anyway, so that's how Hey Dr. Seuss started. My questions are quick and my answers are quick and to the point. Like when I read them on YouTube, I think it's less than 3 minutes for the average. It's just the information you need and always available to do follow-ups if someone submits. So that's how Dr. Seuss started. And I loved it. Although I feel like I have homework every week, but I love it because it keeps me on track of like, what do people want to know? It's a great conversation starter for other places where I speak. Um, but then I was like, I want to have this conversation bigger and with another human because talking to myself is a little boring. I'm my own
You
best
got
company
tired
and
of
I'm
it.
I'm very bored. Now, and so I was talking to someone who was like they're like you should do a podcast. I'm like not on my own. Like I already talk to myself all day. I don't
I know what I have to say.
I know and I'm not and I need someone to keep me on task. And it was like boop, I knew exactly who it was going to be. So I called you, Charlie. I think I called you
You
or texted
did.
you. I
I
texted you and
think it
asked
was
if I could
during one
call
of our
you. Oh,
conversations.
okay. I don't
Yeah.
remember anymore. And I was like,
Well,
hey, go ahead.
because the initial iteration of this was about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So we
So go
started
ahead.
trying, and then I got overwhelmed with life. But it was just like because there was no one else I could think of who we have that kind of interaction that's nice and relaxed and direct and to the point and no shame and like that's what I needed. And someone who understands my brain. As anyone who's listened to any episode knows, Charlie can often read my mind. Um, and that's how that started. And then we spent an inordinate amount of time trying to find a fucking name. Like
We did.
that was way. And the funniest thing is we were trying to record the process, right, for posterity. Oh my God, we have
Yeah.
those somewhere.
Well, yeah, we've got to find some of the
We've got to
stuff
find some
because
of these. We'll do a
we did
blooper
have
reel.
this in mind.
Yeah, at 100, we'll do an actual blooper reel.
Yeah.
Um, we were trying, and we were also playing with recording. So we were recording, like trying to find the name, and we'd come up with a name, and then that would be taken, and we had all these things, and then I was just like, oh, and I hit stop, And within 5 seconds, we came up with the name, and I was like, that just sucked. But the name was born, the artwork was born, and then I approached Allie O'Brien, my friend, who is also one of our steadfast listeners. Thank you, Allie.
Yes,
Um,
thank you, Allie.
who is a musician, and she and her friends, she wrote the music, and we okayed it, and then she and her friends recorded it, and then off we went. So that's our origin story.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and we spent the better part of spring and last summer
Hmm.
getting up to the first three episodes that we released in September.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting journey, the research, the trying to find the right platforms for also what we had bandwidth for
Yeah.
to learn, the learning curve and all of those things. So yeah,
Because
just a little bit more of them.
we have full-time jobs.
We have day jobs, yeah.
Yeah, we have to, which we would love to give up for a podcast.
Yeah.
So if anyone
So
wants,
listeners, help us achieve.
and I know I work several part-time jobs and then do the Hey Dr. Sue, and like you have a life and like we have things. So yeah,
Yeah.
we were trying to find something that was workable. And I do kind
Mhm.
of want to throw that out there. If there's anyone out there who's thinking about starting a podcast
Mhm.
and wants any sort of advice, we're happy to give it. So
Yeah.
um so yeah, just reach out and be like, I have a question. We may not be able to answer it. We could try. And if I'm making it up, I'll tell you. But we learned a lot from other female podcasters
Hmm.
who I know I was guesting on some people's shows, and you don't get paid to guest for a podcast.
Right.
But I was like, hey, can I pick your brain? And most people were like, absolutely, record a podcast episode. We'll get on another call and pick my brain and do all that. And so I just want to thank. Some of them are no longer podcasting, so I don't want to thank them by name, but I do want to thank those of you who helped get us started and answered what felt like should have been really simple questions about how to do this,
Hmm.
and we're not that simple. So if you are
Yeah.
thinking about starting one, I mean, we can't necessarily help you with topic, but we can definitely give you our insights on like platforms and
Yeah.
microphones, because that was way harder
Yeah.
than it should have been.
Yeah, that was a journey, right?
Hmm.
So, with that, I just want to cheers to our listeners, give a toast to our listeners and those very people that helped us in our early stages understand. Yeah, wait, hang on. People can see us now.
I know, damn it. I can't flip you off all the
This was
time.
your idea. But just a toast to everyone who has supported us thus far, gotten the word out, will continue to get the word out, and those that gave us their tips and tricks and were so generous with the information and their lessons learned and everything. So a toast to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, okay.
Hmm.
And our guest speakers, because we've had a couple of really fantastic guest speakers.
Hmm.
We hope to have some more that are in line with what we do. So
Yeah.
we thank them for their time as well.
Yeah. I think that segues nicely
I like that, right?
into yeah, yeah, it's like we planned it.
I know.
Um, some of the considerations in planning our podcast. Initially, we had said, probably no guests, at least not for a while we got our foundational episodes out there. And then what we were finding is a lot of people like to hear guests on podcasts. That was some feedback that we got. And maybe I'll let you tell a couple of those stories, Dr. Sue.
See, now people can see that face.
Yeah, yeah. But by virtue of some of the guest spots that you've done on other podcasts, it was just a really nice synergy between the shows that you'd have been invited on and those that were willing to be a guest on our show. Shout out to Annette from Talk Sex with Annette. We've done a couple of episodes with her, and it's just been fantastic.
Yep.
And she's one of the people that has been really generous with her information with us and her bumps and bruises and what she's learned. So thanks, Annette.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting evolution, I think, over this past year, is going from no, it really just needs to be the conversations that we need to get out there to okay, maybe it's time to start thinking about it and some of the other other aspects that contribute to sexual health, like our talks with Dr. Kara
Yeah.
and pelvic floor health and how that impacts sexual health.
Yeah, and we actually started with the our first speaker because we were approached to be part of the podcast on.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I do think it was important for us to kind of find our way. Like it's always interesting to me when I'm looking at the episode length. Like the beginning, it was like, we're here, we're gonna do a little bit of talking. And now our episode, like maybe 20, 30 minutes, and now it's like 40, 50 an hour.
Yeah.
So our first guest speaker was from I Need an A,
Hmm.
ineedabortion.com, which you can look at by just finding I Need an A. So podcastathon is something, nope, there's no A and there's no second A.
Yep.
I
Podcast
really,
on.
podcastathon, I always want to say podcastathon. It was started in France and they work with smaller podcasts and there's a, to help those podcasts highlight a nonprofit that they want people to know about. And for
Hmm.
me, I am volunteer for them. So for me, it was like I knew exactly who I wanted it to be. And you were pretty much on board. Once I showed you, like, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, there was no convincing. Not like this episode. There was no convincing this. So we had the founder and oh, I don't want to screw it up. Founder and director, founder and CEO, founder and oh, that's bad. Sorry. My apologies. I know she's founder and I want to say director of I Need an A. She came on and talked about her work and how the website came to be. And that was our first guest. And once we did that, it was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe not every week do that.
Hmm.
But I think they were like, oh, wait, this is adding something to our podcast that,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was, I was glad we did that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell any stories about when you got feedback about?
Well, no, because I think some of them are going to know who they are. So
Oh, okay.
the topics that we've gotten, when we get topic requests, some of them have been through the website. So we'll make sure we always include that in the description. If there's something you want us to talk about, submit it as a show idea. It may be an entire show. Maybe we'll work into pieces of a show. So our show idea, we have actually had quite a few folks using that, which has been great because that's, you know, that whole I want to talk about what people want to talk about. So thank you for that, and that will continue to be there. But a lot of the feedback, like not we don't get feedback anonymously, not yet anyway. The feedback we get is from our friends and family and people who are listening to this. So like the take your time and slow the hell down and yeah. Um, there have been some there's been some feedback from people in my life who are like, you should have someone on the show. And when they were trying to describe who should be on the show, it became very obvious they had never listened to our show. It
Hmm.
was like they basically just wanted to bring on someone we would fight with. And I'm like, that's not our theme. That is not our vibe. I mean, every once in a while I want to, you know, throw down with you, but then we move on.
Do you?
No.
Do you?
Well, actually, yes, because there was that one episode. Thankfully, there was no video where I just spent like 5 minutes flipping you off. I don't know if you remember that. So,
I do. It was because I told a story.
yes. But like we don't, that's not the vibe, and that never has been. And it's always been really important to us that we're not doing clickbaity shit because we
Hmm.
want this to be something of substance. There are 1,000 different podcasts out there that are clickbaity
About
in
sex.
nature. What was that?
About 1,000 different podcasts out there about sex that are clickbaity and argumentative and
And that's not what we wanted this to do.
yeah.
And then I had some folks who were like, you need to have men on there. And I'm like, well, like if you had a great guest speaker who was male, I'm not going to rule them out because they were male.
Hmm.
But part of it was like just to have a different voice. And I know you and I have talked about this 1,000 times. For every one good female podcaster out there on any subject, there's like 100 now. See, now I'm making up numbers. There's got to be at least 100 men. And so you
Hmm.
and I know, felt like men have enough space and that we wanted to create something different. Not that we're opposed to men. And if you have a
Yeah,
guest
in that
idea,
realm,
yeah,
right?
actually we're working with someone right now to see if we can get them on the show who's
Hmm.
male.
Yeah.
Um, but just this idea that we should have their voice present, I'm like, they're present enough. We don't, not to man bash, but
Yeah.
yeah, we wanted to
Yeah.
hold that line. So
Yeah, that's I mean, that's a big joke out there right now is like if you're on a date with a guy, oh, I have a podcast. Oh, do you? Kind of. Everybody has a podcast now.
Yep. But
Um,
apparently 90% don't make it past 3 episodes.
right, right.
So you should be like, oh, you have a podcast? How many episodes have you done?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Two.
Oh, Geo.
Mm.
Now I'm gonna have fun making all my faces, knowing
Yeah,
that
right.
people are gonna see them.
People be like, hey, thanks for doing that. Now you can stop
No,
video.
yeah, we're good. Thanks
We're
so
okay.
much.
Nice try.
Itch scratched. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What are some things that you have found that you maybe didn't expect on our journey so far, or are there any?
I love when we have a plan and then like you hit me with something I didn't plan. Um, so it's more of my friends and family stuff that I would talk about. So I don't know if we want to go into that. Um, in terms of what we've done, I don't feel like anything has been surprising. In terms of show ideas that have come in, I don't think anything's been really surprising. It excites me when people are interacting with us, so
Hmm.
it's not shocking. Um, people in my, so I guess I'll just keep talking about myself. Um, everyone in my life who's like in my life knows what I do. Like
Hmm.
there's no secret. Like it's not like we go to a family dinner and I change my title. I mean, like age appropriate. If there are young
Hmm.
children in my life, they don't know what I do. They know I'm a teacher.
Hmm.
But for everybody else, like yeah, everybody knows. And nobody's ever seemed bothered by it. I get that question a lot actually when I first started my career. It's like, are your parents like, do they have a problem? Like, they will stop at the grocery counter to tell like the checkout person what I do for a living. Like, because it's also based in education, and both of my parents happen to be retired educators. And so I think they really like the idea that well, actually, they hated that I was going into education, but that's for another podcast on another time. But what I think is really fascinating, like everyone was really supportive. We had a number of people who are willing to listen to those 15,000 outtakes of our first episode.
Hmm.
What's really interesting is now that the episodes are out, how many people are like, I support what you do, but it is weird to actually hear you talk about sex. And I'm like, but, but, but you've always known that this is what I do.
Yeah.
Like, um, but I think that there is something different when it's coming from someone you know. And so I've had a couple people like, yeah, I'll listen to it, I'll listen to it. And then I'll be like, oh, did you listen? They're like, honestly, I can't. Like, I know what you do and I support what you do. And I tell everybody about your podcast, but it's weird to hear you say some of those words out loud. And I'm like, that's exactly why you should be listening, like, is to get past that.
Yeah,
But,
to
but
break
I,
that weirdness.
yeah, but I recognize that. Like, it's different when
Yeah.
it's a family or a friend. And so it was surprising to me how many people had that reaction. Or maybe they just didn't want to listen to the podcast and they thought that'd be a great out. But it was like, no, like support you. We tell people about you, share your posts when you put them up on social media. But like the first time I was listening to you say certain words, they were like, there was a little ick factor for me because I've known you for 20, 30, 40 your whole life.
Hmm.
So that was a surprise, but also not.
Yeah. That just makes me think of the first time that you and I met and had a conversation. And there's the what do you do? And I've said it in a couple of episodes about this, but you get this little glint in your eye because you're waiting to see what kind of reaction you're going to get when you say, I teach sex.
You should know, by the way, that oh, now everyone can see me like pointing at
Uh-huh.
you. You should know, by the way, that I don't say that to everyone I go through a
On the
very
first date.
the first no, the first time I meet someone, when they ask me what I
Mhm.
do, like I have to go through this very quick mental checklist of, do I
Yeah.
feel safe? Do I feel like I'm going to be attacked? Am I in a place where I feel like it's too public to have this conversation? So like the fact that I said that shows how much I trusted you from the very
Hmm.
beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but there are times where I have edited myself.
We've done an episode on that.
We
We've
have
had
done
that
an episode on that.
conversation.
So
Yeah.
there you go. See, that just speaks to you being wonderful from the get-go.
Thanks. But I do remember that glint. And and you
Did it look
say
a little like that?
you blurting it out and then watching me to see what I would do.
It's always fun
And
to
I
watch, though.
don't think I flinched.
You
I was like,
didn't.
"Oh, cool. Like,
Yeah.
what level? What do you like? How do you teach?"
It's kind of a fun game to watch how people react to that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I love though when I don't like right now because I'm a little sick and nasally. And for those of you joining, this is not usually what I sound like. Um, I said I teach sax, and someone's like, saxophone? And I'm like, no, 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 not sax. I teach sax. And they're
That'll
like,
be a term for colloquialism episode.
so it was kind of funny. But yeah, I do. I go through a very quick mental checklist of how do I feel like this person's going to react, and do I want to do I think I'll have to defend myself? Do I want to defend myself? Like, I've
Yeah.
definitely met people like on flight. I always joke that if you're next to me on transportation, trains, buses, flights, and you ask me
Hmm.
what I do, like you're going to have a conversation you didn't expect. But there are definitely times people have asked me what I do, and I just say I'm a college professor who teaches health because it feels safe.
Yeah.
So, so there you go. Kudos to you for being a good human.
Hey, thanks. I think for me, what has surprised me
Oh
is
yes, I'm sorry,
the amount of,
Charlie. What has surprised you?
yeah,
So sorry.
that's all right. I can ask myself the question. Um, I think what surprised me is sometimes I have a little bit of imposter syndrome on some of our episodes. And I'll think and I'll express it to you sometimes of like I just don't know how I'm gonna bring value to this conversation other than guiding it and all of those things.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
people can see that now.
Um,
Whoops. For those of
um,
you who aren't watching, by the way, I just pretended to
yeah.
like slap her.
Um, but then what surprises me is that I am able to contribute in a meaningful way. And just the feedback that you get from some of your circle about my contributions like
Yep.
means the world to me because there is always that. I mean, I'm sitting with one of my closest friends who is so esteemed and so knowledgeable and so experienced. And this is not just an ego stroking episode, but it can be like a little, of course, I support you and I'm 100% a cheerleader, but to be able to sit comfortably in these conversations and feel like I add value to what you present and what you like, this stuff so well. So, so that's been surprising to me is
Uh,
my
you owe
the way I've been able to effectively sit in these conversations and I think add value.
You absolutely have. It's so funny because I was talking to a friend and no one knows who you are in my life. Like because yeah.
I'm
Um
the elusive
you're
Charlie.
the elusive Charlie and they'll be
That's my
like
superhero name.
but they'll be like Charlie asked the questions I wish I was asking in the moment. And I'm like, well that's good and bad. Good because you're getting a question asked, but bad because it's stopping you from like asking and having more talking about it. But there is a value to being that voice of like, okay, but here's what us us humans think, or this is what us humans aren't sure about.
Hmm.
And you definitely bring more of that psychological perspective than I
Oh,
have.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yay.
We'll keep you
Yay.
around just a little longer.
Just maybe for 50 more
Oh,
episodes and then
maybe.
we'll reevaluate.
101, you're out.
Yeah, that's
Now
it. That's
hiring.
that's my life cycle. Um, what what do you think's still pissing us off about sex and taboos?
Oh, fucking
So many things.
so many things. This see now we just went from like a normal episode to like a 200-minute episode. It's still the censorship. It's still the fucking censorship.
Hmm.
It's still the conversations that we have to have behind the scenes about how we're going to word things and are we going to I will never. I know we've talked about the value of misspelling sex so it doesn't get censored, but the fact that the information gets censored is pissing me the fuck off. So it's the continued censorship. It's the continued censorship from legitimate sources. Because there's
Hmm.
really crappy sources giving really bad information about sex out there and they've managed to like
To get
get
through.
through the censorship
Mhm.
chain. And then and my stuff, whether it's here or through Hey Dr. Sue, my stuff doesn't always make it through that that mystery maze so well.
That
Um,
gate.
so I think it's the continued censorship for me.
Hmm.
That would be the biggest one. I have several other contenders, but what about you?
I think for me it is figuring out different ways to chip away at the conditioned taboo nature of sex and pleasure and sexuality and all the things that go into sexual health and sexual relationships and allowing for space for those different iterations of people being humans to exist. The absolute need and desire to create others
Hmm.
and pit others against each other
Hmm.
to distract from the man behind the curtain, in my opinion. Um, because, I long say that there's no money if we all get along. There's no money in people getting along.
Yep.
So we've got to continuously create these adversarial relationships with the way people move about society and what they enjoy and what they've been traumatized by and naming people who make space for that as woke as if it's a pejorative term and all of those things. It's trying to unpack and get through to people who are so certain that their conditioning is without question, without reproach.
Right.
So that still pisses me off.
I don't think that's going to go away in the next 50 episodes, by the way.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But upside, that means we have 50 more episodes
I
to,
always
to to continue to chip away at the granite with a toothpick.
Thanks for making this seem like we were never going to get any. At first, I was like, yes. Then you kept going with it, and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's just not worth it. Um, I one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast was I could have my own platform to talk about the ridiculous state of sex ed. And I remember when we finally did that episode, and I was like, oh, it's done. And I still reference it all the time. But the reason I bring it up is I joke with my students that if it wasn't for their crappy ass sex ed that they had K through 12, if they had any, like I may not always have the job I want. So like,
Yeah.
yay, crappy sex ed. No, that's just a joke. I want everyone to get the information. But it is a joke. Like there's always going to be work for me because people are still getting misinformation or no information. So
Well, and you have to do it almost retroactively because you have to go back as far as when they first got exposure to sex ed to untangle any misinformation or outdated truths that they have been holding on to because they learned it in somewhere in their K through 12 journey. And then you get to start doing the things that you went to higher ed to do.
but by
And
then it's like
whereas
the
there's
end
a
of the
case
semester.
for, yeah,
And then we're done.
and whereas there's a case for if there is this teaching model that in the episode where we talk about it, we're not saying teach kindergartners about sex, but what contribute foundational things that contribute to healthy attitudes and potential sexual interactions are the building blocks for communication, healthy communication, the building blocks for
Consent.
understanding consent and how to give
Hmm.
consent, and how to receive non-consent, how to receive no. Those are all
Build.
building blocks. And so you, in my opinion, based on some of the things that you have shared with me, is that you have to spend a semester undoing all of that stuff
Yeah.
so that you can do the stuff that you need to do to get quality health ed professionals out into the world.
Yeah. And then it's also the work that I'm doing in the community. Like I get those folks like an hour. There was one time I was working with psychiatrists and I got them for like 4 hours over 2 days. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, like not enough time to do half the things that I want.
Yeah.
But at least I get them for more than an hour. So yeah, that's why we will continue to doing the podcast and I will continue doing the Hey Dr. Sue and we'll continue to I'm not reiterating the grounding with a toothpick. That was really disheartening and like totally burst my balloon. So
Well, I'm tenacious and I will chip away at granite with whatever I can. So
that
that's
was
why you have me
to be disheartening. Thanks. So
to be like, no,
personal.
we could still do it. We'll find a way. We'll find a crack.
Somehow. Somehow,
Phrasing,
somewhere, even if we have to make it
phrasing in a
ourselves.
sex in a sex podcast. Crack.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
What else do we want to talk about in the 50?
I think one thing that I wanted to highlight, just kind of what from what we've learned, is there have been a couple of times where we have kept our recording. So we have 2 times a week we meet. You know what I'm going to talk about
I
to
do.
record, and there we
Well,
did so well out of the gate once we got through like getting our first episode, our pilot episode recorded. And then we would record on a topic with just minimal, like, here's the topic. Okay, Dr. Sue, are there like key things you want to be sure that you mention? And that was worked really well for a minute.
till it didn't.
And then there have been a couple of times where we've met to record and we know the topic and we had the same approach. And then we'd stop recording and be like, how do you feel about that? Like, I hated it.
It
How do you feel about
sucked.
that? It was awful. And
We
so
have we have the unreleased episodes that will come out on our death.
we just kind of meander. I
Mm.
kind of got this, the rare occasions that Dr. Sue has to rein me in back on topic.
I don't like that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But so
The
that lesson learned of like, okay, here's the topic and just the bones. We don't script. We don't have this is candid. That was our mission. Candid, accessible information to have people who tune in understand that even people who are comfortable talking about it, one who does it for a living and one who is unashamed, we will still fumble and still might get tricked up and a little giggly about about the word erection or crack or hole.
We're two messins.
I was so excited about that word. Um,
I,
so coming out of that, I feel like it was like a necessary episode, thing to happen for us to just kind of humble us and be like, no, no, no,
helps
come on.
helps us stay on focus. Yeah, it helps us stay on track, and that's
Yeah.
part of that process. I gotta tell you, can I change this just a little bit or a whole
Yeah.
lot? One of the things that I always surprises me is is people's reactions. But so these are people that I know. Um, but I have a very dear friend who listens to the episode. The episodes are released at 8 a.m. Eastern time, and that happens to be when she is driving to work. So she gets to listen to the episode, and then she'll send me a text of like one thing. And we record these weeks ahead of time because we both have busy schedules and we both have
Mhm.
things to do. And so sometimes I forget what episode is coming out until I get a text. But my favorite, and I didn't ask consent to say this, so I'm hoping she's okay with it. It was the episode on sex ed. And it was where I was talking about where students, when I was teaching in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was finding out students who had come from Catholic school had, instead of learning penis and vulva or vagina, were learning Pennsylvania and Virginia. And I just get this text, and it was just all caps, like Pennsylvania and Virginia. Like, and I completely forgot the episode was coming out because I was teaching class at 8 a.m. I get out of my class and I look down, I'm like, why am I being yelled at? Oh. Um, or people have great t-shirt ideas. So I have another very dear
Yeah.
friend of mine. Everyone's a dear friend of mine. Um, Another dear friend of mine who listens to them when she can, because she's work, family,
Mhm.
all the things that keep people busy. And I'll just get like a random text of, I've got this episode's t-shirt idea, because it's like this thing that comes through. So you'll occasionally hear us say like that's the t-shirt idea, and
Yeah,
that's
that's the
that comes
merch.
from yeah, the merch idea. That's how she
Mhm.
phrased it. It was the merch idea for the week. So it's interesting because it's the things that get repeated back to me that I haven't, like, that wouldn't have been my takeaway from that.
Mhm.
Like I know when we did the episode with no, with Kara, Dr. Kara, and it was like, how's my two messins? Like that was definitely a moment we had of like, that's a great t-shirt idea.
Mhm.
But it's the things that people are picking out that were important to them that I would not have necessarily said was the most important part for me, but that's why we're not doing it for me and you. Well, a little bit
Mhm.
for me and you. sex episodes. Sex ed episode was definitely for me. I know there's a couple of things. Okay, a lot of this is for me anyway. Um, but hearing about those pieces, those tiny little pieces that people were pulling out that they thought was amusing or funny or of note or pissed them off,
Hmm.
and they're never quite the moments I expect. So A, if you're sending me those texts, please keep sending me those texts or send them by, if you don't know me that well and you just want to send it in the story idea, you can send it through the same link of the story idea. Like,
Yeah.
here's the merch idea for the week. Um, but it's those moments that remind me why we're doing this because I don't know what people are going to pick out. You don't know what people are going to pick out. Like, we don't know what
Oh.
people are taking from it. God knows we try to figure that out when you're writing the description, but that's your job, not mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's always been really fascinating to me is what's hitting people and how it's
Hmm.
hitting them. And I
Yeah.
know, and I don't use names, so I'm being very careful about consent because when people text me, I don't think they think I'm going to be talking about it on the thing.
Sure.
But when the episode came out, the first episode we did with Annette about healing after sexual assault, um, it was a friend of mine. I haven't, you lose touch with friends. Not like we're not friends any. I feel like I'm trying to qualify us like friend, but not someone I talk to on a very regular basis anymore.
Hmm.
I just got this text out of the blue that said thank you, and I'm like, well, I know I'm wonderful, but why are you like, hey, how are you, and good to hear from you. And she said, I just listened to your episode and I needed to hear that, and I was like, that's, oh, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm tearing up a little bit.
yeah, like those are the moments. Every once in a while, I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, we have other
We've done
things.
everything very often,
Don't
not very often.
no, no, don't
Okay, I
do
won't.
it.
I
Don't do
won't.
it.
I won't. I
Sorry.
won't. I
Not
won't.
that one, because then I know what you're gonna say. No
No, I won't.
consent.
I hear you
Thank you.
and I move on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that is interesting and exactly what we had hoped to do
Yeah.
with this is we don't know, we know the broad topics around trying to chip away at these taboos surrounding sex and sex health and all the nuances of it. And just to hear, hopefully, hearing it in a conversational way where it's not uber jokey, it's not hyper hyper gender role centric. There's some sex podcasts out there that are very rooted in these
Traditional gender
notions
roles.
of male
Yeah.
female interactions with sex and all of that stuff and so really having these conversations and getting this information out there so that because a huge part of it was making this information equitable, access to this information equitable. Like right now, we're not behind a paywall. We want it searchable. We want it. And one of the things, so one of my kind of frustrating stories was a conversation I had with someone who has done several podcasts. And I was just trying to pick their brain.
Now I know where this.
And it became kind of it felt like an aggressive tone. I don't know if that's what was intended because I believe that they were trying to help me think about it to drill down on it. But in doing so, I didn't feel like my answers about our podcast were being heard.
Hmm.
It was a very formulaic, like, what's your demographic? Okay, well, who's listening now? Okay, so that's your demographic. Well, no, that's not our demographic. That's just who's comfortable listening.
Right.
Our demographic is
Humans.
everybody that needs
Humans.
this information.
Yeah.
And granted, there are challenges with that being two women talking about it. There could be some discomfort from maybe male listeners, whatever.
Non-binary
But the
folks.
point is that that's not the center of these conversations. Sometimes it is based on the subject, like I need an A. But for the most part, we want to present this information in a way that is relatable or piques curiosity for anyone who, I mean, I say it in our outro, anyone who needs to hear it.
Yeah.
anyone who needs to think about it, that it sparks some kind of curiosity or conversation with people important to you that you feel like you could open up to about this stuff.
Yeah, and I know that's been hard because I've spoken to a few PR folks to try to help boost our numbers, and their answer is, "Well, who's your demographic?" And I'm like, "Humans." Like, no, you have to pick one, and I'm like, "No, humans."
Yeah.
It's just humans. Or I was talking to one person about the Hey Dr. Seuss stuff, and literally it's written below an eighth grade reading level. Not that I think that people are stupid, but that's, I'm trying to get as many humans as I can. And when I'm talking about subjects that may be upsetting or challenging, like the last thing I want you doing is struggling with language. And the videos, I think my longest video was like 5 minutes. And the
Mhm.
person was like, well, if you want to drive up your YouTube listening time in order to get sponsors, you're going to have to do more filler and you're going to have to go off task. And I'm like, someone's asking him a question that's super important to them. The last thing I'm going to do right now is make it hard to get the answer because
Yeah.
people will ask a question and I will very usually, oh, English hard today. I will very often, that's the word I was going for, very often,
Very usually often.
very usually often answer the question in the very first sentence.
Hmm.
Um, One of the questions I have gotten several times is, can I get pregnant from pre-cum? That person does not want to read through 15 paragraphs before they get the fucking answer. Like they
And the
need that
science
answer.
of pre-com.
Right. They need that
Yeah.
answer and they need it now.
Yeah.
And so, like, this idea that in order for this to be successful, some air quotes, because I don't think we've air quoted in a while.
Especially now that we're on video. We don't have to say it. Because oftentimes, many listeners may know this. We will say, you can't see us right now, but air quote. And now we don't have to say air quote. We can just show it.
We could just show it. No, because
Little bunny rabbit ears.
not everyone's listening to it.
I know. But
Well,
anyway,
sorry, I just had this huge tech issue. I pulled out my headphones. I don't know if you covered that well, but here I am. We pulled out my headphones, but everyone saw it because I was like desperate. Anyway, the idea that for us to be successful, air quotes for those of you not watching, like we have to do this thing that would actually make it harder for people to get information, just irritates me. Like
hmm
the whole reason we're doing this is to give people information or to try to get them to start thinking or challenging these ideas they've already had. And I'm supposed to bury the lead because I want people to read longer, like,
Yeah.
or listen longer. Like we're already long enough. Like,
Well, and as we've talked about too, by the time someone is searching, has come across your content in a search result, they are likely freaked out
yep.
about whatever they're searching and
Oh,
looking for an answer to. So you bury the lead 15 minutes in, they've already moved. They're not even going to get to the 15
yeah.
minutes. They're not going to hang around. They're going to go somewhere that tells them, no, you're okay, you're normal, or, oh, go get this
Yeah.
taken care of.
Yeah. And yeah, that's part of my frustration with this whole thing.
Look forward to our episode on Dr. Google.
Yeah. We know that one's coming out soon, actually.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've taken this trip down amnesia lane,
Amnesia.
that's from the Dead Poet
You
Society.
know,
I love that movie. Anyway, do you want to take us out?
I want to sit for a moment
Oh,
for the bit of shit you just gave me for chipping away at granite with a toothpick. And you said, granted, you quoted a classic movie that many of us know and love, but still, amnesia.
amnesia lane.
All right. I'll just be over here with my toothpick and my granite rock,
At least let it be like a little rock hammer,
chipping
like
away for you.
from like Shawshank or something. Like even that has more of a like a
More of a
hope.
chance. A little aluminum fork.
A little spork. Because I'm not allowed to have sharp objects because I tend to hurt myself.
And don't run with scissors.
Oh, so often do I do that. Anyway,
Well, I think as we wrap up, just kind of thinking, looking ahead, what do you think for what do we have next? We're going to keep going, obviously. We're going to keep doing our topics. We're going to keep asking you all for topics and feedback. Um,
I know we've
what,
talked about taking the show on the road. Start doing live events.
yeah.
Um,
So open mic nights.
oh, jeez.
See how that
Sorry,
goes.
I forgot the question already.
Well, I think this is really a question for those of you listening. What do you want from us
Yeah,
over our next 50 episodes?
yeah.
Is there something you want us to revisit in a different way from a different lens? Is there
Please
a
say sex
topic
ed.
we
Please
have?
say sex ed. Oh, sorry.
No leading the witnesses, Dr. Sue.
Damn it.
But yeah, what do you want from
Um,
the next 50? We heard some feedback, so here we are on video. Um,
I slowed my intro down. We take
ish.
the feedback.
Um, you
Yeah.
spend, you know what this has caused is you spend most of your intro qualifying and giving credit to people that have told you to slow down. So you eat up your time.
Yep.
So you're still spending the same amount of time on your credentials that you were before you got the feedback. So I
One
just
thing,
want to throw that out there.
you know what we haven't done that I do want to do before we head out?
What?
I haven't thrown my students under the bus, and I feel like I haven't done that
That's
in
right.
a
I thought,
yeah.
well, I wondered if you were going to do that with the
I
how we got
I
here.
yeah, I kind of overlooked that in that. I
Yeah.
do want to answer what you're saying. So what we want to do is continue making a show that you folks want to listen to. And maybe not every episode feels like it's right for you. I know we did one on aging and we were talking a lot about menopause and some of the younger folks are like, I kind of skipped that episode. I'm like, dude, you're going to wind up there. Like you should probably listen to it
Yeah.
and your loved ones will probably wind up there. So
Hmm.
we do want to keep making a show that folks want to listen to. We want to keep doing topics that are important to you, not just topics that tickle our fancy. So please,
Tickle.
please give us, send us show ideas. If you'd rather just have me do a Hey Dr. Sue, though sometimes we do take some of those and actually launch them into full episodes of this.
Hmm.
Um, if you want to yell at me by text, please don't, or, you know, if you must. But we do want to
Just
keep
include emojis when you do it.
but remember I'm older, so I don't always get them. But yeah, just for those of you who are listening, as Charlie says in the outro, share this with someone that you think might be interested. We do know that one of the best ways to getting people to listen to podcasts is to have a friend recommend it.
Hmm.
It's great if it shows up as a random thing for you, though that's probably not going to because our numbers aren't that high yet. So the more you can help get the word out about us, we'd appreciate that. But I do want to take a minute to throw those students under the bus
Do it.
because it is one of the ways that the show started. Though you and I had already been talking about doing this. And when we first tried it several years ago, that was before the students were giving me crap.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my students, we chat before class to get, I get there early to make sure my technology's working and we start chatting. And there have been a few times they've come in saying some really stupid ass things. And I call them out on it. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, oh, we heard this on a podcast. I'm like, what the hell are you listening to? And
Hmm.
then I had a couple of students who were like, well, if you don't like it, where's your podcast? And I'm like,
That part.
do do do. And at first I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to behind my podium now. And then I kind of got to that part where I'm like, mentally, I'm going, all right, challenge accepted.
Hmm.
It's my students, by the way, who tell me not to slow the hell down, but they also tell me that in the classroom. um, but yeah, so I want to thank my students. I've actually had some students from decades ago reach out to me that I haven't heard from in a really long time, and that was really kind of nice.
That's so wonderful because of the podcast.
Because of the podcast,
Ah.
they are now like raising children and had questions about like age appropriate sex ed because their
Hmm.
answer was I don't want to get into I'm always afraid of phrasing it in a way that the person's like, wait, that was mine. But essentially like I don't want to raise kids that needed your class as desperately as I needed it.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so keep reaching out to us. We have ways that you can find us. I'm all over social media. The podcast does have social media, but right now it tends to be mostly coming from the Hey Dr. Sue account.
Hmm.
You can submit show ideas, you can submit feedback, but we want this to be audience driven because otherwise we're going to wind up talking about all the things I want to talk about, mostly another episode on sex ed. Um, and then Charlie always wins every once in a while too. So that was it. That was my last thing.
All right. And then, so for me, I want to thank everybody that has been on this journey with us in these first 50 episodes, to the guests that we've had on and have again been so generous with their lessons learned and their information and their tips and tricks. And as Dr. Seuss said, if you share our podcast, because there's 50 episodes now, so there is likely a topic in there that someone is curious about and is too shy to ask about. So maybe this will help them find their language, find their comfort with it, or not if they don't find their comfort, but just start that journey to being more comfortable in that space and with the language and the topic, etc. So thank you for everyone who has gotten us here to our 50th episode. And here's to 50 more and beyond.
Minimum.
So
And then
with
I
that,
replace you. No.
huh?
And then I
Yeah.
replace.
Well, I expire at episode 101.
Yeah,
So
so accepting applications now.
there's that pink hair required. Um, so everyone, if you like, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode. And if you like what you heard and now saw, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who's ready to unzip a few taboos with us. Now that we're on video, feel free to wave back or even shout at the screen, especially at Dr. Sue. We won't hear you, but we'll love the energy. And if you've got questions or a topic that you want us to dive into, we want to hear them. So head to the link in the episode description to share what's on your mind. And stay tuned. Till next time, we're diving into more taboos, unzipping more taboos, and we'll see you soon on screen or in your ears. Everyone, take care.
Don't forget to say thank Allie.
Well, thank you. I was about to get there.
Oh, sorry. That's usually your yes. Dun dun. There's our first. Yeah.
Hey, Allie. Thank you for our theme music. It's wonderful. It is special. It brings a smile to our faces every time and hopefully to our listeners. Thank you very, very much, Allie. And everyone, keep unzipping those taboos and take care.